The special virtual meeting of the Annapolis City Council on Monday, March 22nd, 2021 will be called to order at 7 p.m. At this time, would everyone join us for the invocation by Alderman Arnett, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I was going through some family papers over the weekend, and I came across a prayer for peace from St. Francis of Assisi. And I thought in this time of recovery from national malaise and local tribulations, these might be useful thoughts. And it goes as follows: make us instruments of peace. Where there is hatred, let us sow love. Where there is injury, let us pardon. Where there is doubt, let us show faith. Where there is despair, let us bring hope. Where there is darkness, let us shed light. Grant that we may not so much seek to be consoled as to console. For it is in the giving that we receive, and it is in the pardoning that we pardon. So I think that I would encourage us all to join in a spirit of good fellowship across the country, in the city, and at tonight's meeting.
Amen. That's beautiful. Thank you, Alderman Arnett. If you could all join us in the Pledge of Allegiance now, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Backsliding.
We shouldn't all join the same glee club, I can tell. Madam City Clerk, please call the roll.
Yes, sir. Mayor Buckley?
Yes.
Alderwoman Tierney?
Here.
Alderman Payon? Okay. Alderman Pendell Charles?
Here.
Alderman Finlayson?
Present.
Alderman Shandelmeyer?
Present.
Alderman Gay?
Here.
Alderman Savage?
Present.
Alderman Arnett?
Present.
Alderman Payon is here. I had it on mute. Sorry.
Thank you. Mr. City Attorney, please present the first item on the agenda.
Yes, sir. The next item on the agenda is approval of the agenda.
This time I entertain a motion to approve the agenda. Can I get a second?
Second.
Mr. Mayor, if I want to pull something that is proposed, should I pull it now from the agenda or should I allow it to stay on the agenda?
Mr. City Attorney.
You want to pull it now?
Okay, I want just like to amend the agenda to remove R921.
You're not the sponsor.
Do I have to be the sponsor to remove it?
You had to file a grant application? Why do you mean 0921?
R921.
Thank you. Alderman Arnett had his hand up.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We actually talked about this at lunchtime. I guess my question is there a time sensitivity here? But Alderman Gay's point at lunchtime is that this is a grant to buy large buses at the same time when we have a city policy to buy small buses and actually to migrate towards as much as possible hybrids or even electric vehicles. I guess my question to the administration would be the time.
Let me interrupt. There's been no second to any kind of motion. I think we're kind of out of order at this point.
Does this need a motion, Mr. City Attorney, or?
Well, you need the motion to approve the agenda removing R921. So you need a second on the agenda with the R921 coming off.
Okay, before we get a second, Regina, you had your hand up.
No. He repeated what I was going to say.
Okay. Alderman Finlayson, sorry.
Yes, clarification from the city manager, I guess, because I think we were told that this has a time sensitivity to it.
Well, Mr.
So,
Mayor, you probably need a second to start discussion.
Okay.
Okay,
Could I get
all
a
right.
second, please? Second from Alderman Pindell Charles. I see a hand up there. Thank you. Mr. City Manager, clarification, please.
Yeah, can we bring Director Britt Gordon forward, please? He's here to discuss this matter. It definitely has a time sensitivity. That's why we're asking for rules to be waived and for it to be voted on tonight.
Mm-hmm.
I think, while we're just waiting for him to be pulled up, I think to the point that Alderman Arnett was making, understanding that it is time sensitive, I think it will be foolish of the council to move forward with accepting this grant and purchasing the replacement of 2 heavy-duty buses. I'd like to hear, a more description from the Director of Transportation. But to his point, we have made a commitment not only to ourselves but to the citizens to move away from the traditional bus system that we have for more efficient transportation, both for the city and for the resident. And so I think it will be foolish to continue to invest dollars into, archaic modes of transportation, really.
Director Gordon. Yes. Good evening, everybody. First of all, the annual transportation grant is time sensitive. I apologize for getting it to you so late, but it's only because the state got it to us late due to COVID and other issues. With regard to the size of buses, this is not a large bus. It's a medium duty. It's, I believe it's a 28-foot bus. It's been in our plan. If you recall, we had a transit development plan that we have a replacement vehicle cycle in, and we were scheduled to purchase 2 vehicles each year to replace vehicles that have reached the end of their useful life. And that essentially means the vehicle is at least 10 years old. Regarding replacing it with EV or zero emissions vehicles, the types of vehicles that we buy are relatively small in comparison to the EV vehicles that are out there. Most of the vehicles sold today are 40-foot and larger. We don't buy 40-foot buses. In fact, to my knowledge, there aren't really any 30-foot or less buses out there, EV at this time, that have been tested and proven to be reliable. About a month ago, I met with the Transportation Association of Maryland with the MTA administrator, Kevin Quinn, and he went over MTA's strategic plan for bringing EV vehicles into Maryland. And the plan essentially says they expect to start transitioning to electric vehicles in 2023. I believe they already have about $6 million in grants, and they have a couple of pilot projects for a 40-foot EV vehicle, which is $750,000, and the 60-foot articulated vehicle, which costs even more. Now to transition what we have, our diesel vehicle, to an electric vehicle would easily cost twice what we're paying for the diesel vehicle at this time. And right now, we're having problems this year with our 2 vehicle replacement plan because the state is no longer providing the funding that it's done in the past. In the past, the cost share was 80, 10, 10, 80 state, 10 federal, 10 local. Well, the state's not putting up their share anymore. So now the locals are required to put up 20%. And at this point, we simply don't have it. So we're looking at, instead of 2 vehicle replacements, getting 1 vehicle. So I hope that helps you to understand where we are with this, Alderman Gay. If you really want to talk about it, I'd be happy to sit down with you and go over with where I am. The state's plan calls for getting up to 50% EVs by 2025, and we buy our vehicles off of the state contract. So we were hoping, like all the other local jurisdictions, is by that time they'll have vehicles that we can use that are reliable, and we can bring them into the system.
A lot of councillors have their hand up, so I'm gonna go to the Mr. City Manager.
Mr. Mayor, just point of order here. We're kind of getting off the rails we're debating the merits of a legislation, which needs to happen later in the meeting when we actually have it on second and third reader. I just don't think it's appropriate to be having this level of conversation at this point in the meeting. The motion is to withdraw or remove this from the agenda. So I think if we focus on those comments, but this is just way too much.
Okay, Mr. City Manager.
Yeah, my only point was the grant applications for a total of about $3.9 million, of which about $700,000 is for buses. So if we pull this and don't go forward with the application, we're basically giving up the 3.9 million, actually 3.2 million plus the capital grant. We can't afford that.
So I'm going to leave the debate for when we get to this later on. Thank you. Everybody has their hand up. That's what we're going to do. Everybody has their hand up, so I'm going to leave it till later. Thank you. So can we vote on this now, please?
Mr. Chair, I have a question about this vote. We're asking to vote, and I think the alderman is out of order. We are trying to decide whether to vote this up or down. That's what the debate is right now. So how do we know how to vote if we don't have the questions answered?
Oh, no.
That's not the question on the floor.
The question on the floor is whether to amend the agenda to remove this item. So how do we know how to vote if we can't get our questions answered?
Well, we're going to move. I'm assuming we're going to give the alderman the courtesy of moving it to the back of the agenda. I would imagine that we would do that. I'll let you go forward if you have a question.
Well, isn't the motion on the floor to remove it from the agenda?
Just to move it to the back of the agenda. Is that right, Mr. City Attorney?
Oh, he wants to move it.
He wants to delete the resolution.
Oh, I apologize. And then I think we have to debate this, right?
Well, it's currently on the agenda for second reader with a motion to suspend the rules to approve on third reader. I'm sorry. There's a motion to introduce and then suspend the rules and adopt on second reader. That's on the agenda.
Right.
And so that's why he's proposing to remove it entirely from the agenda. I mean, the point is, if we want to, the time to discuss this is when it gets introduced on first reader. Then we talk about if we don't want to introduce it at all on first reader, but this just throws a wrench in our entire proceedings at this point.
I think that's a pretty serious situation to remove it. Alderman Annette.
Vote no for this motion. Have another motion to approve the agenda as submitted. Vote yes to that, and then we can go on to debate this later on in the agenda.
Okay, Alderman Finlayson.
I agree that we should be debating the merits when we get to that point of the agenda. Right now, we're talking about whether to remove it or leave it on the agenda. That is what we're talking about. And I'm going to ask my question because I don't know how this vote is going to come out. So my question to Mr. Gordon is, if we vote this down, how will that impact our transit system without this new vehicle?
We won't be able to purchase the vehicles. And it may result in us not getting the grants at all.
And the service to the citizens will be impacted how?
Absolutely. The vehicles that we have, the 10-year-old vehicles, would remain in service. That simply means that those vehicles are subject to maintenance and repair. So those vehicles could be down and we would not be able to provide the service.
Thank you.
Alderman Tierney.
Thank you. I feel as chair of the Transportation Committee, I must speak. And the motion on the floor is whether or not this is substantial enough to leave on the agenda. If we take it off the agenda, that is a delay. And if you read, I'm getting into substance a little bit, but there's such risk in doing that because if you read the staff report and the fiscal analysis, we ask for these grants and we don't usually get all the money. So we need to know as soon as possible. So it would be totally reckless if we just take this off the agenda and let it delay for whatever reason. And I'm sure once the money comes in, there is some manipulation with it, but I don't want to get into the substance. I'm just addressing the urgency of having this on today's agenda.
And I want to thank you, Alderman Finlayson, for sort of clarifying that for me. I thought we were just moving it to the back. So thank you, Alderman Gay.
If you read the staff report, it also requires nearly $1 million in matching funds, $848,029 to be exact. So there is money to be spent on the city's behalf either way. What I would be interested in is looking at even using funds from this deal that's going on and the money that be received on the back end from the garage to, fund a more sufficient transportation system or parking system or whatever. I think that, to make the commitment, but to not make the actual sacrifice to get there, the research, to spend the dollars, etc., just pushes it further down the line. There are municipalities in Maryland that use electric vehicles. I've ridden on them, some as close as Silver Spring. There is even a fully electric gas station in Silver Spring. So these things are possible. We just have to be willing to take the risk to get there. The decision is up to the council. I think we made it clear that a vote should be taken.
Okay, don't see any other hands up. So we have a motion to amend the agenda to remove R921. With a show of hands, please, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say no. No.
No.
The noes have it. Thank you. So now, Regina, we need a motion to approve the agenda.
Mr. Mayor, I move to approve the agenda as submitted.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call, Regina?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Yes?
Yes, sir. Mayor Buckley?
Yes.
Alderman Gay?
No.
Alderman Savage?
Aye.
Alderman Arnett?
Aye.
Alderwoman Tierney?
Aye.
Alderman Payon?
Aye.
Alderwoman Pendell Charles?
Aye.
Alderwoman Finlayson?
Aye.
Alderman Schneidermeyer?
Aye.
That's it. That motion carries.
Okay, thank you. So, Mr. City Attorney, please present the next on the agenda.
Yes, the next item is ceremonial items, ID 921, City Council Citations, International Women's Day.
Okay, thank you, Alderman Finlayson. I'm going to hand it over to you. And Julian, could you please bring up Pastor Allen, Pastor Johnson, and Pastor Menendez.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. March is quickly coming to an end, and we thought that we should recognize several women in our Annapolis community. And we know that March is the month of the woman, but we also know that every month is the month of the woman. And so this evening, we are recognizing 3 of our local pastors, what my grandfather would call women of the cloth. And so we'll begin with Pastor Carletta Allen, and I will read our city council citation, and it reads, Pastor Carletta Allen, on behalf of the residents of the city of Annapolis, we are pleased to confer upon you the City Council citation in recognition of your work during the time of the COVID-19 pandemic. As pastor and leader of Asbury United Methodist Church, you have demonstrated your commitment to the Annapolis community and those hardest hit by the pandemic. Most recently, your parish hosted a weekday vaccination clinic at your West Street location. It is especially important that we recognize your contribution during Women's History Month, which is set aside to acknowledge and celebrate the achievements of women in the community and across the United States. Very often, the impacts of crises fall on women. COVID-19 has been no exception. Throughout the pandemic, right here in our Annapolis community, you have stepped up. We thank you for your service, and we honor and thank you. And this is signed under the great hands of the Seals of Annapolis, this 22nd day of March, and signed by Mayor Buckley and all 8 members of the Annapolis City Council. And could you bring Reverend Allen forward? I see transportation up.
He's there.
He's there.
He's there.
Okay. Pastor Allen, you're muted. Would you like to say a few words?
Well, I'm rather speechless. Thank you so much. This is such an honor. We do what we do because it is what needs to be done. As some of you know, my grandmother is the mother of integration of Tampa, Florida, where I was born. And there's an exhibit in her honor at the University of South Florida. And when all of that happened, she said, I don't understand what all the fuss is about. I was just a little country church lady who saw something wrong, and my God told me to try to make it right. And I've never forgotten those words. And so that's been how I've tried to live my life, to be a simple person who sees what's wrong or missing or needed and try to do something about it. So thank you so much, Council. This is such an honor, and I will treasure it, as will my family called Asbury.
Well, wonderful. Thank you for all that you do in our fair city. And we truly, this is just a small recognition, but we can't ever thank you enough. The second pastor happens to be my pastor, and she's not, she's a little under the weather right now, but I will gladly read the citation to Pastor Patricia Johnson. On behalf of the residents of the city of Annapolis, we are pleased to confer upon you the City Council citation in recognition of your work during the time of the COVID-19 pandemic. As pastor and leader of Mount Zion United Methodist Church, you have demonstrated your commitment to the Annapolis community and those hardest hit by the pandemic. Most recently, your parish hosted a weekend vaccination clinic at your Eastport location. It is especially important that we recognize your contributions during Women's History Month, which is set aside to acknowledge and celebrate the achievements of women in the community and across the United States. Very often, the impacts of crises fall on women. COVID-19 has been no exception. Throughout the pandemic, right here in our Annapolis community, you have stepped up. We thank you for your service, and we honor and thank you. And again, signed under our hands in the Great Seal of the City of Annapolis, this 22nd day of March, 2021, signed by Mayor Gavin Buckley and all 8 members of the City Council. And I hope that my pastor, Pastor Johnson, is able to listen to this meeting this evening and hear her recognition. She has been an awesome leader for our congregation, as well as throughout the entire city of Annapolis. And so we can't thank her enough. And our third pastor is Pastor Cheryl Menendez. I see her, and I'll read her citation. On behalf of the residents of the city of Annapolis, we're pleased to confer upon you the City Council citation in recognition of your work during the time of the COVID-19 pandemic. As pastor and leader of Light of the World Ministries, you have demonstrated your commitment to the Annapolis community and to those less fortunate. Throughout this time, you have organized and run food drives and helped to mobilize an army of volunteers. It is especially important that we recognize your contribution during Women's History Month, which is set aside to acknowledge and celebrate the achievements of women in the community and across the United States. Very often, the impacts of crises fall on women. COVID-19 has been no exception. Throughout the pandemic, right here in our Annapolis community, you have stepped up. We thank you for your service, and we honor and thank you. given under our hands and the Great Seal of the City of Annapolis this 22nd day of March, 2021, signed by Gavin Buckley, Mayor, and all 8 members of the Annapolis City Council. And could you bring Pastor Menendez forward? And to all of you, we know that it is just not during time of crises, but all the time that you step up in our community. Pastor Menendez, would you like to say a few words? You're still muted.
Can you hear me?
We can hear you now, yes.
Thank you so much for this honor. It is an actual joy and delight to work in the city of Annapolis doing what we're doing. During the COVID, it has been exceptionally rewarding to not only have just my team, but the city of Annapolis. Mayor Buckley's been out there several times. We've been in your community. Alderwoman Finlayson, we've been to every community in the city of Annapolis over the last 10 to 11 months. And I am pleased to say we are a Maryland Food Bank Pantry and also an Anne Arundel County Food Bank Pantry. And we have given out several 100,000 pounds of food to cars, to communities. We've been able to go into the communities. And as you all know, about 10, 12 years ago, I adopted Robin Wood. So it's been an absolute joy and delight. And to see people work together, our police department, our OEM, it really, really has been an absolute pleasure. I really want to say it's one of the joys of my week. And we're there every Tuesday and have been for the last 9-10 months, but we were all over the city of Annapolis providing food and also doing programs with our H2O Adolescent Recovery Clubhouse through the health department. And of course, there's no words to say this award tonight is not just mine, it's all of the people who support and do those acts of kindness and love. And everybody who knows and who's out there partnering with me knows that everybody that comes is our guest. They're to be treated with kindness, to be treated with love, and to let them know how we appreciate, because it takes a lot for someone to get into a car and drive up and say, give me some food, or I'm hungry. And we just want them to feel very comfortable. So to all of the alderpersons who's been out there with me, Alderwoman Finlayson, Alderwoman Pendell Charles, Alderman Gay, all of our mayor. It's been exciting. And I'll be honest, just joy to do this. So thank you all so much for this honor for my entire Light of the World and Restoration team and all of those who are our partners each and every week. And if you have an opportunity, hope to see you tomorrow because we're out there.
So thank you to all of you. And ladies, continue to pray for us, please.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Alderwoman Pendell Charles.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd just like to bring it to everyone's attention on this past Saturday, down at the foot of Clay Street, we celebrated Women's History Month. And what we did was give a citation to the family of Bertina Larkins Nick in honor of the legacy of what she has done. The mayor was there, Alderman Payon was there, and I was there to see all the volunteers who dug deep, literally, to clean up that area, and was a labor of love that was going on. And so I just want to bring that to everyone's attention that a citation was given in honor of Miss Bertina Larkins Nick, who was originally from Parole on Hicks Avenue. And so her family was there, and there were probably at least 100 volunteers, if not more. And we thank everyone for volunteering down at that location this past Saturday. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you so much. It's 3 inspirational women right there. They're all amazing, and I'm scared of all 3 of them. All right, Mr. City Attorney, please present the next item on the agenda.
Yes, sir. Petition reports and communications, beginning with update from the mayor.
So good evening. We had such nice weather this weekend. You can feel that Annapolis is ready to get back to our new normal. I want to thank everyone who came out for the Bettina Nix cleanup at Adams Park on Saturday. I want to thank Janice Hayes Williams and Carl Snowden for organising the event. The park is ready for spring enjoyment. We're also working on updates to our recovery zones, which not only proved popular with the public, but were effective at maintaining our public health. These zones provided added capacity for businesses while allowing patrons to maintain social distancing. It is a favorite week in Annapolis. It is Restaurant Week. I want to give a shout out to Eric Evans and the Downtown Annapolis Partnership, who have worked hard to organize this year's event. Many of the menus include takeaway food, all include dine-in. Either way, support your Annapolis restaurants this week. It's less than $40 for a 3-course dinner menu, and it's less than $20 per person for a 2-course lunch. If you've been itching to try something new, this week is the week to do it. While you're out, please remember that the governor's mask mandate remains in effect. If you are in a store, a restaurant, unless you're at a table eating, or if you're at the gym, in a religious facility, at your office or workplace, or even indoors in places where you can't maintain 6 feet from others, please still wear your mask. Yesterday, the Capital Gazette ran a story on our Office of Health Equity Outreach team and their work. I spoke about them last month, but the work they are doing in the community has tremendous reach and value. We are so proud of their efforts. A round of applause, thank you. Starting in April, our Office of Emergency Management with the Anne Arundel Department of Health will be opening the Pit Moyer Recreation Centre as a vaccination clinic site. This is something I've been pushing for since the vaccines were approved in December. Vaccine supply has been limited, and that kept us from moving forward on an Annapolis location. It is critically important for our city to get as many people vaccinated as quickly as possible so we can find our new normal and get our city back to business. The work of government is often dismissed, but it is just this kind of initiative, bringing testing into the city, running vaccine clinics at senior homes, at churches, reaching out into communities of color to upend health disparities and outcomes, bringing vaccination clinics to our community on a regular schedule. That is what government does. We are here to provide resources and services to residents. It is our primary function. Public health is a very necessary component piece of that effort. For a long time, all we had to offer was stay home, wear your mask, watch your distance. This was a terribly frustrating message. We were able to bring testing here last spring, and that was helpful to know where the virus was and how much it was spreading in our community. A useful bit of information, but when that positivity rate and the case rates ticked up last fall, it was information that nobody wanted to hear. Now, we are giving people a real light at the end of the tunnel. The vaccine is safe. Millions of people have taken it. I have taken it. Our city council has taken it. Vaccinations and staying one step ahead of the variants, that is our path out of this pandemic. Being able to administer the vaccine at local churches, including Mount Olive, Asbury, Mount Zion, Iglesia Hispana, Emmanuel, bringing Pip Moyer online as a site. These are all ways government is working to serve the people and to move our city out of the year that has been COVID-19. None of this is easy, but we are fighting for our residents and our businesses every single day. I thank our city staff for working to move us forward. A little round of applause for our city staff, please. Now I have a little bit of solemn news. First, William Rao from my office has some health challenges and will be out for the rest of the year. I would like you all to keep him in your thoughts and, if you can, say a prayer for him. Will is a strong man. I saw him and his partner Amy yesterday. He has good humor and a good support system in place. But if you could all use your positive energy as he heads into this battle, we know Will's going to kick it. Godspeed, Will. Also, a real friend to our city, Jim Muldoon, lost his brother quite suddenly over the weekend. Jim, we are sorry for your loss. If we could take a moment of silence in memory of George Muldoon. Thank you. Thank you. And last week, city staff was rocked with the news of the sudden passing of MIT specialist Patrick McAllister. Patrick was the person who showed up when your computer wasn't working, and with speed and competence and his gentle manner, he would always take care of business and quietly leave you better off than how he found you. Patrick started working with the city of Annapolis in 2005 as an intern. Over the course of 16 years, he grew in the job and worked on a variety of projects in our MIT department, managing desktops and troubleshooting, but also building systems, including a response system after the Capitol Gazette shooting. He was a kind and gentle man who leaves behind a young son, Brendan. Our MIT staff has been on the job since the pandemic began. They have been called on to ensure that everyone could work remotely, but they didn't get the luxury of staying home. We all expect them to be there to solve problems quickly and efficiently. Right now, they are grieving. To our MIT staff, please know we all grieve with you. I'm sorry for the rest of the city staff and members of our community who knew and loved Patrick. For his friends, family, and loved ones who now have a hole in their lives where Patrick once was, I'd like to read a piece of poetry by W.S. Merwin. It is called Separation. Your absence has gone through me, like thread through a needle. Everything I do is stitched with its color. May Patrick's memory be a blessing to us all. And now I would also like to take a moment of silence for us to hold him tight in our memory. Please join me. Thank you. Thank you all. The City of Annapolis is a family. We truly appreciate the support. Mr. City Attorney, please present the next item on the agenda.
Yes, sir. The next item is reports by committees.
Thank you. Would anyone like to give a report? Alderman Gay.
Thanks. The Housing and Human Welfare Committee, we heard the CBDG requests in our last meeting. We need to reschedule to hear the last 6. There are concerns from some of the members of the committee, and I've given them free control to discuss with law, their concerns, but we do plan to move forward with the regular proceedings of the CBDG hearing in our next meeting. And then to the point that you were making with staff, as this relates to human welfare as well, do we have a standing commission for current staff maybe where they are able to hear or feel complaints or whatever in a setting that maybe makes them feel comfortable, or where they feel that, those concerns will be met? Are there any outside of the traditional HR system?
Mr. City Manager?
We do. We have what's called EAP that's available to all of that's Employee Assistance Program. So they can handle any of those types of issues. So we activated them right after the incident. And so that has been available to employees.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Alderman Gay. Any other reports? Thank you all. Mr. City Attorney, please present the next item on the agenda.
Yes, sir. The next item is comments by the general public.
Okay, we have two people signed up for live audio testimony. The first one is Susan Margolis, 113 Conduit Street. If you could step forward, please, and restate your name and address. Thank you, Susan. We have missed you. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much, as always, for the opportunity to come and speak with you. It is a privilege. This is Susan Margulies. I'm at 113 Conduit Street, and I'm here today to speak in opposition to Bill 0721. And hopefully I'll speak in favor of Bill 0921 later on. But for now, I'm speaking in opposition to Bill 0721, the special exception for short-term rentals. And I'm opposed to this at this time for 3 reasons. And all of these reasons have to do with the fact that we're in the middle of the pandemic, and this is just not the time to be depleting our short-term rental stock, driving down tourism, driving business away from the shops and restaurants downtown, dropping our property taxes, and depleting the pool of revenue for our hotel tax. Alderman Gay had expressed a wish for a rooftop garden on top of Hillman Garage. And this is my wish too. I think that is something for all Annapolitans. And it really should be recognized that this bill is for a few residents on a few blocks of a few streets of Annapolis. And I think the city council has an obligation to minimize cost and maximize profit so that things that are good for everybody can really come to fruition. And I don't think this bill should be passed until three things are done. The first is if you are going to pass regulation to decrease short-term rentals, you should make sure that you've done everything possible for your bed and breakfasts. And the owner of the Flag House Inn has regularly come to you asking you to raise the room cap limit on the number of rooms that he can rent. And this hasn't been done yet. So before we decrease short-term rentals, we should make sure that we've done everything we can for our bed and breakfasts. Similarly, before you decrease non-owner occupied short-term rentals, you should make sure that you've made the regulations for owner occupied as easy as possible. And right now, you are turning your concern for safety on and off like a switch. You force the private homeowners to get their homes inspected, but for boat show and commissioning week, when there's that heavy influx of tens of thousands of guests, they stay in homes that are not inspected. And it looks hypocritical to the general public. You care here, you don't care here. And thirdly, I think you should allow the big houses in the historic district to subdivide into condominiums before you disallow the buyer class of short-term rentals. And I think I'm out of time. So those are my three reasons. Do things for all Annapolitans, not just a few. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Susan. Next up is Frederick and Beverly Narrigan. Please come forward and state your full names and address. Thank you. You might still be muted, please, if you could unmute. You're on the screen, Frederick, but your microphone button is red. Julian?
We've asked him to unmute.
Okay,
He's
I
coming
see.
on now.
Thank you.
Can you hear us now?
Yep, if you could speak a little bit louder, thank you.
Oh, okay. Can you hear us at this point?
That's great.
All right, thank you.
Well, thank you so much for letting us speak tonight.
Thank you for the opportunity to address you. We have owned our property at 21 Pinckney for more than 20 years. That's a lot longer than many of you have lived in Annapolis. We came to Annapolis because we were enthralled with the things to do there and the fun things there are to do. And we short-term rent our place to people who enjoy coming to Annapolis that don't want to stay in a hotel. Naval people, they want to have their kids there. They want to cook for them. They don't have that opportunity. So I'm opposed to your terminating or limiting these licenses. We've had one for a long time now. We pay our taxes.
We have a rental company. We pay cleaning ladies, we pay people to remove snow when it's there. We pay lots of stuff. And we pay the property taxes, which is a lot on our property. We have never done this to make money. We consider that a second home, which we love very much. We love being there as often as possible. We never wanted a long-term rental, never wanted to make money on, just want somebody to be there when we can't be there. Our friends love to come to. We dine downtown, we shop downtown, spend a lot of money downtown. Our guests all do that way too. And also we allow dogs there.
people want to come and feel like they're at home when they come to Annapolis, which is nice. We've had one experience with a long-term rental. It's not been good. They destroy the property. They cause damage. Short-term rental people, they want to come to Annapolis, enjoy it, spend money, to partake in the things that are there.
And they like being able to walk there. And also we have off-street parking, which is very nice. So I don't feel it really infringes on too many people at all.
Thank you. We appreciate your testimony. Thank you so much, Frederick and Beverly. Now we'll move on to the written testimony. Thank you.
Did they say they owned a short-term rental for 20 years, or it's converted to a short-term rental?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Okay, we have written testimony, a lot of written testimony today that I have to read into the record. So number one, we have written testimony from Robert Meyer, 1010 Bay Ridge Avenue, Annapolis, Maryland, on accessory dwelling units. Secondly, Ted Shields, 728 North Riverside Drive, Crownsville, Maryland, accessory dwelling units. 3, Ann Peacher, 45 Cornhill Street, Annapolis, Maryland, rent increases during state of emergency. 4, Bill Downs, 650 Greenbrier Lane, Annapolis, Maryland, medical cannabis dispensaries. 5, Terrence Wright, 1789 Abel Drive, Annapolis, Maryland, medical cannabis dispensaries. 6, Townsend McNitt, 26 Franklin Street, Annapolis, Maryland, medical cannabis dispensaries. Then we have written testimony on short-term rentals, ODS 7-21. Firstly, Cynthia H. Chase, 8 Rebel Street, Annapolis, Maryland. Sharon Judith Jones, 10 Fleet Street, Annapolis. Robert Clark, 18 Pinckney Street, Annapolis. Gary Perham, 954 Creek Drive, Annapolis. 5, Carl Larkin, 154 Prince George Street, Annapolis. 6, Richard Garrity, 2 Taney Ave, Annapolis, Maryland. 7, Norma Melio, 114 Smith Avenue, Annapolis. 8, William Diet, 221 King George Street, Annapolis. 9, George and June Davis, 219 Lockwood Court, Annapolis. 10, Diane Roche, 129 Sparview, Annapolis. 11, Maggie DeLegio, 12605 Amber Terrace, Richmond, Virginia. 12, Elizabeth Higgins, 96 East Street, Annapolis. 13, Larry and Ruth Clausen, 160 Prince George Street, Annapolis. 14, Kelly Fitzgerald, 30 Monroe Court, Annapolis. 15, Amy Clements, 17 Southgate Avenue, Annapolis. 16, Antoinette Roya Berger, 170 Duke of Gloucester Street. 17, Edward Reed, 161 Conduit Street, Annapolis. 18, Merle Sandiv McDermott, 202 King George Street, Annapolis. 19, James McNeil, 145 Prince George Street, Annapolis. 20, Caroline Mitchell, 33 Pinckney Street, Annapolis. 21, Noel Richmond, 142 Monticello Ave, Annapolis. 22, Deborah Connors, 58 Franklin Street, Annapolis. 23, Lyle Folks, 76 East Street, Annapolis. 24, Mark Millay, 123 Conduit Street, Annapolis. 25, Tom Rakis, 2603 Condon Road, Cambridge, Maryland. 26, Jason Brand, 1521 Ritchie Highway, number 300, Arnold, Maryland. And that is all the written testimony, and that can be seen on the city website. Is that right, Regina? We truly appreciate everybody. Obviously, this is still a very hot topic. We are looking forward to getting back in chambers to work through it with everybody. Mr. City Attorney, please present the next on the agenda.
Sir, the next item is legislative action, first readers. First item is 0821, dwellings above non-residential uses in the PM district for the purpose of creating standards for dwellings permitted above the ground floor of non-residential uses in the PM zoning district in matters generally relating to regulation of such dwellings.
Is there a motion to adopt O-8-21?
So moved.
Second.
I will second.
Thank you. Discussion. I see two hands. Alderman Gay was first.
Yes, I would love to be added as a co-sponsor to this administration. And Fred, I'd love to discuss some possible amendments as well.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Tierney.
Same here. I'd love to be added as a co-sponsor. I'm all for having residents above storefronts in Main Street.
Thank you. Any other hands? Okay. All those in favor with a show of hands, say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed, say no. Can we please refer that to O-821 to the Planning Commission and Rules of City Government Committee? Thank you. Mr. City Attorney, please present the next item on the agenda.
Yes, the next item, first reader, is 0921, accessory dwelling units. For the purpose of establishing accessory dwelling units as an accessory use in certain zoning districts that allow single-family dwelling units, establishing the use and bulk requirements for accessory dwelling units, and establishing the procedural requirements for accessory dwelling units.
Thank you. Is there a motion to adopt O-9-21?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Anyone like to discuss this? Okay, no discussion. All those in favor with a show of hands say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed say no.
No.
Thank you. Please refer O-9-21 to the Planning Commission and to Rules of City Government Committee.
Mayor, if I could also request that it come before Economic Matters and Housing, please.
With that, Regina? Yes, absolutely. Thank you. Mr. City Attorney, please present the next item on the agenda.
Yes, the next item is R-821, the Digital Connectivity Act, for the purpose of expressing support for the Maryland Digital Connectivity Act.
Right. Is there a motion to adopt R-8-21 on first reader?
So moved.
So moved.
Okay, can I get a second?
Second.
Thank you. Alderman Gay.
Thanks. I want to be a co-sponsor on this, but I just had a quick question in clarification regarding digital connectivity. In the beginning of the pandemic, we used CARES funding in a partnership with Comcast that would have extended wireless services to a number of families for X amount of dollars. Would it be possible if we can get an update on that, the impact it's had on X number of families in the city of Annapolis, and just a better understanding of where we stand with digital connectivity in our city, period?
Thank you, Mr. City Manager.
Yeah, we can provide that information. Happy to do that. We'll send it to all the city council when we get that information put together.
We should build our own network.
And I would like to be added as a co-sponsor.
I'm with you, Alderman Shandelmeyer, on the Chattanooga train. Thank you, Alderman Pindell Charles.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for the co-sponsorship. And I just want to reiterate, when the pandemic first began, Ms. Lynn Farrell was front and center on the combined collaboration and partnership that we had with the Anne Arundel County Public Schools in the city. And so we've been working very diligently with the school system and the city to make sure that connectivity is throughout the whole entire county, including South County, where there's really many spots down there where children could not be connected to their Chromebooks and were not able. So this has been really a countywide effort, and I'd like to thank Ms. Farrell for being front and center and working with the school system, of which I am a part of, to make sure that we connected every child that we could. I know even members of the school system executive team were reaching out to children to make sure of that. And when I heard this mentioned at a partnership meeting recently, I was moved to say, okay, because many of these children are our children in the city, we should show some solidarity and support for our state delegate colleagues who have put this forth in the state legislature and the connection that we have with the school system. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Alderman Payon.
I'm good, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Okay. All those in favor with a show of hands, say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed, say no. Thank you. Mr. City Attorney, please present the next item on the agenda.
Yes, sir. The next item is R921, filing of grant application with the Maryland Transit Administration for the purpose of authorizing the filing of an application with the Maryland Transit Administration of the Maryland Department of Transportation for various sections of grants under the Federal Transit Act.
Thank you. Is there a motion to adopt R-9-21 on first reader?
So moved.
Moved.
Second. Thank you. Discussion. I saw Alderman Arnett's hand up first.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I want to go back to where we were a while ago. I do subscribe to the notion that Alderman Gay has raised with this, and that is that we continually say we want to do one thing and then we agree to grants to do another thing. Now, I'm certainly going to vote for this because there's much more to this grant than just the purchase of buses. And I did hear loud and clear Mr. Gordon's discussion about the buses, but it somehow feels to me that we have to walk the talk. If we're saying we want smaller buses, smaller footprints, and we want to have environmentally sound practices such as reducing emissions, it really feels like that ought to show up in our grant applications as well. I know this is late in the game, and to bring this up, and really we should have been talking about it earlier. I also accept Mr. Gordon's reminder to us that he himself didn't get this until late in the game because it didn't get to him from the state. But still, somehow we've got to figure out a way to make our policies translate into our grant applications and our other activities that we have in the city. And maybe it's that the council isn't explicit enough in its policies. I do think that we've pretty universally supported things that protect the environment or further the environment. And I don't know how we make that translate into what we apply for, but I do think we need to do that. And therefore, I'm certainly in sympathy with the point that Alderman Gay raised.
Thank you. Alderman Pindell Charles, then Alderman Savage.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Since Mr. Gordon has been here, I guess over the past 4 years, I've been extremely impressed by
how he has directed our Department of Transportation. We've had several directors, and I've never really worked with anyone on a one-to-one basis until Mr. Gordon over a long period of time. I respect his judgment. I'm very satisfied with the explanation that he gave this evening to us. And I thank Mr. Gordon for being with us as our Department of Transportation Director. Thank you.
I think Mr. Gordon just wanted to make a couple of points. Is that okay, Alderman Pindell Charles? Can we bring Director Gordon forward?
Thank you. Can you hear me okay? For some reason, I can't get the screen. Okay, here we go.
Yes.
Back to the grant, and thank you, Alderman Pindell Charles, for the kind words. The grant provides a total of $3.8 million for the department. That money is used for our fixed route transit operations. It's used for our ADA paratransit services. It's used for vehicle maintenance, and it also included the replacement of 2 vehicles. And as I started to say earlier, because of the change in the cost sharing arrangement with the state, it's highly likely we won't be able to get 2 vehicles this year. With regard to zero emission vehicles, I would like to get them as much as anybody else. But in my discussions with our fleet maintenance manager and others, there's a lot of work to do before we can just go out and purchase these vehicles. As an example, we don't have any infrastructure in place to support these vehicles. I just can't pull a vehicle up to CVS and plug it in and charge it. We need high capacity chargers to do this. We don't have any of that in place. And what I'm finding in my research is when you buy these vehicles, in a lot of cases, you buy the infrastructure as well. That comes at a pretty significant cost. And we're struggling at this point just to pay our share for 2 diesel vehicles. I know it would be really difficult to do that for zero emission vehicles and the infrastructure. Although I am willing, at the first opportunity, I'll be going after them, but it's just not now.
Thank you. Had Alderman Savage, then Alderman Finlayson, then Alderman Gay. Thank you. Oh, sorry, Alderman Power. No, I'm sorry. I saw your hand up after I saw Alderman Savage's.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Okay, I believe somebody else was up in front of me.
Sorry, Alderman Savage, and then you, and then I'll go to everyone else. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, and thank you, Director Gordon, for the additional information, and to Alderman Gay. I do appreciate you bringing this up. I just wanted to happen at the right time in the meeting, but I do think it's important that we keep emphasizing the need to shift to a different mode of transportation, and I'm glad that the director has heard us. You know, you've said that before, Director, and I do look forward to us making that shift. But I do think we need a few things first, and I know staff is Deputy City Manager Guild, and I'm sure is working with you, Director Gordon, because I know we've spoken in the past about wanting to get some kind of plan to shift to electric vehicles. And as you said, it does require some additional infrastructure, especially for these larger buses. It may require some special chargers. But I think another challenge is that we are, I think, ahead, or want to be ahead of where the state is right now. And the state really needs to start releasing contracts and programs that we can partner with them on, where they can help us pay for some of these new vehicles to make this transition. But I think you've said this before, Director Gordon, the state is just not putting up these kind of matches for electric vehicles yet. So I do think that's another thing we may want to speak to our delegation about to get the General Assembly to hopefully take some action on this. But I also think, to look on the bright side, I think getting new vehicles does, even if they're diesel fueled, hopefully they'll be cleaner than the older ones, since they'll be newer. and will require less maintenance. But with that, I do plan on supporting that, but I do also look forward to the continued conversation about our transition.
Thank you. Alderman Payon, sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I wanted to quickly say that I agree with almost everything my colleague, Mr. Arnett, said. Ross, you can write that down. I agreed with you. I think that I totally agree with the sentiments that Alderman Gay has expressed. I support the electric buses and the zero emissions or very low emission buses, but we all have to. I'm not pointing the finger at anybody. We're all guilty. We got to start a lot earlier in the year, making it clear that this is what we want. And I agree. Tonight's not the night. We need to pass this thing and let Director Gordon get to work, because without this money, he's going to have a tough time doing that. Thank you.
And I'm going to come back to you, Director Gordon and Mr. City Manager. I just got to go through the council. They all had their hands up first, and I forgot who I said was next, but I see Alderman Schneidermeyer's hand up right now, and then Alderman Finlayson, and then Alderman Gay. Thank you.
I don't know who was next, but I know there was one other person before me. So if someone else had their hand up, okay. So Director Gordon, how old are these current vehicles getting replaced? You said over 10 years old, correct?
Correct.
How frequently do we have maintenance issues and breakdowns with them?
Well, it's not a standard thing. It's sort of sporadic. It's like your personal car. It breaks down, you have to fix it. So, but it's fairly regular. The older the vehicle is, the more often it's going to break, and it happens.
I have I've been riding public transportation into DC for years now, going down Route 50 on the buses, and I know firsthand what happens when you do not replace or maintain vehicle fleets. They do break down. It is on top of just a hassle being delayed for work. It is a little bit of a safety issue too, especially if you break down in the middle of the road. I know we're not going with ours onto Route 50, but it still can cause issues. So I would encourage you guys to support initiatives to update our fleet on this front.
Alderman Finlayson.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm kind of looking at this at the 30,000 foot level from the policy perspective. I think all of us would agree that we want the most energy efficient, the most environmentally sensitive modes of transportation in our city. But our wish and our policy has gone way ahead of what's doable. MTA is not funding the buses that we want to have in our city. And Director Gordon has said it's going to be, would you say 2025, 2026 before those buses will be available. The size of those buses, and Alderman Schneidermeyer, you're in DC, you know the size of those electric buses that will never fit in our city streets. And so there again, size is significant. So when we're creating policy, I think we need to look at all aspects of the impact of the policy. We cannot afford, or maybe we can with appropriate planning, but we can't afford, I don't believe, to pay for these buses independently. We're going to have to wait until MTA is prepared to help us fund these buses, or the state legislature, or however we come up with the additional funds. But I think our policy has jumped ahead of really what is doable. And so we're going to have to stick to the buses that MTA is willing to fund at this point, because the last thing I hope any of us want is an impact to service. And if we don't have buses that run properly, it is going to impact services, and that's going to impact our residents in a negative way. Thank you.
Alderman Gay.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. I think the true impact to service is robbing our residents of decent transportation. That's the true impact to service. And I'd second like to say, whenever there is no personal issue with the director, I think he does an amazing job. I had a chance last week to stand out with members of the Transportation Department and Public Works for hours while they put together, I watched a bus stop on President Street. And we had great conversation. I loved the staff. I gained great insight from them. And so this is no disrespect for the Department of Transportation, but it is making a commitment to what we said. And if you are planning on running for re-election and asking people for a vote, and they say, well, what have you committed to? And you say this, and you don't do this, then that's an issue. And so we did get the City of Annapolis Transit Development Plan on October the 17th of 2019. And we asked for this. I have it marked right here on page 9. Proposed alternatives focused on one of the last things, regional electronic fare system. We had a discussion for almost about 45 minutes. I have notes about cost, size, everything, because we discussed this. So we did ask ahead of time by almost a year and a half. We asked the staff to look into it. We asked the city manager to lead that effort. So what we should have had was a report on, this is the grant money that we can get for electronic buses or electric buses or hybrid buses. This is the research that we've done, and this is how we are prepared to move forward with that. We didn't get that. And so you can't be mad at me for bringing up the issue. I think that that's a big deal, because then what's going to happen again is in 10 years, they're going to be like, oh, well, we don't have the money because, this happened and now we have to set aside. No, we have to be consistent. And so I think that, looking ahead, if we are expected to receive revenue from outside resources, as I mentioned, this project in the future, the additional funds that we expect to have, those should be used to fund major efforts in our city, like redoing the transportation system, or like, investing into the marine projects that we discussed last week, because that makes a difference. That makes services better for our residents when we're producing jobs and creating efficient transportation. That's the biggest issue that we have. We can't increase density because everybody's worried about traffic. How do you get rid of traffic? By creating efficient public transportation. And if we aren't committed to doing that, then we should just say so up front. There are other municipalities, as I've mentioned, the bus doesn't have to be 75 feet long. I've seen buses in different municipalities where they're like literally 12 passengers with no driver, and it's electric and it's moving around the city, picking up and dropping off at stops. So the technology does exist. The grants do exist. The trials do exist. We just haven't put the effort into it. And so I don't know. I just think it's a mistake. I'm not voting for it. I understand the impact that it could have, but I also understand that there's revenue that we could use to supplement this transportation system while we, get things fixed in the meantime. I mean, it's just a mistake. If we are on the council in 10 years, are we going to do the same thing? Likely, because it happened the last time this came up. So,
Alderman Chandlemeyer, I'm going to let the city manager and transportation director speak to this before you torpedo it. Alderman Gay.
I have a quick question for my colleague. Alderman Gay, is there a reason why you believe these vehicles will not provide an efficient service?
Well, there are a number of reasons. One, I think that if we're looking at truly being honest to the budget and making changes that would help us, make significant cuts and stuff like that, when you look at these massive buses, as he mentioned, sporadic breakdowns, all of this stuff, there's constant revenue being poured into that just for the gas alone. Making small changes like that help us over the long run. And I think, too, also, when you look at smaller buses, and as mentioned in this data report, it would help significantly with identifying new routes that we currently can't reach just because of the size of the buses and because of the style that we have and stuff like that. And that was discussed in this report. And that's why I think that, we had a plan, and if we would have just stuck to it, we would have been in a really good place. And so, there are several reasons why I just don't think that this is the way to go with our transportation.
Alderman Tierney.
Oh, Thank you. And thank you, Alderman Gay, for really drilling down into the details and not rubber stamping this. I really appreciate that. But my question is for Director Gordon to sort of expand on what Alderwoman Finlayson was saying. How much? Well, first off, we do need this revenue source. This is absolutely needed to sustain our transportation. And so how much liberty do we have, Director Gordon, under MTA? I mean, if we said all of a sudden, we want 5 electric buses, what is their reaction? I mean, are we under their direction in that way? Or
no?
Okay.
The reason we buy through their contract is they will fund 80% of the cost for us when we buy through their contracts. We can go outside to buy someone else, but we need to have the full funding to pay.
Okay. So we are. Okay. So, So getting back to these buses, I know this sounds like an oxymoron, but are they clean diesel buses?
Yeah.
Okay.
We're buying now. They are clean diesel, but let me just add one other thing. We do have the one hybrid bus that we've been using on the state shuttle service for the past several years. I think that may be a 2010, 2011 bus, and it's running pretty well. One of the issues we had with that was last year, it was finally time to replace the batteries. And the cost for that was $50,000. And that's a major cost. That was a true setback for us, but we planned for it. We got the funding and the bus is still running. Now, with regard to Alderman Savage and MTA, they are looking to put out an RFP on electric buses by 2025. Okay. And their plan calls for 50% fleet conversion by 2030. And the key to that is, as they get the EV vehicles in, all of the locally operated transit systems can buy off that same contract. And that's more or less what we're looking for. But at the same time, we still need the infrastructure to support it. So it's not the kind of thing where I'm trying to delay it. I think the one thing that did delay it last year was the pandemic. But beyond that, it's on our list of things to get done. We just need to wait until we have the resources to do it.
Yeah, and as my colleague Alderman Savage said, for $3.2 million grant for only having an $800,000 match, it's kind of a good deal, right?
Really good deal.
And I think we're matching it with CARES money. Is that right, Director?
That's exactly right. The CARES money is going to help us out tremendously this year and into next year.
And Director Gordon, can we get a hybrid bus at the right size or not? Is that
if one's available, Mayor, we could get one. We've already sort of got the ball rolling with these, and the issue this year is we may not have the 20% for both buses, so we would end up just getting one. Now we can put it in next year's budget and pursue one then. I would much rather get the zero emissions. I mean, that's what everybody's talking about. I think the city deserves that. And at some point, I'd like to make that happen.
And is the technology there, Director Gordon, to run the routes with just one electric bus right now? Because I don't.
No, they simply don't have the range to do it with just one. But the hybrid that we have, we run that all day. So we could pursue another hybrid or hydrogen cell vehicle and do it with that. So there are other options beyond just electric vehicles that we can consider.
Thank you, Alderman Gay. I saw your hand up.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. So just say that we didn't accept the grant, we have to take is this $3.8 million? Is that what you use? How much of of this grant, 3.8 million, how much of that is of your actual operating budget?
It's about 40%, 45%. these grants make up about that. But the other thing, keep in mind that because we requested this doesn't mean we're going to get this. This is just our request. And every year, at least last year, it came in less than what we requested. So on the positive side this year, we have the CARES funds to make up any shortage.
And so in a typical year when you wouldn't get the expected funds, how do you make up for the unmatched amount?
We simply don't do as much. We make it work as best we can. I have an example here. Last year, we requested in the large urban for fixed route, we requested 1.3 and we got 770,000. ADA, we requested 189 and we got 98,000. So you don't know until it's approved, and it's dependent on their funding.
Well, and I think what my point is that if we have an opportunity to get out of a bad situation where we are confined by, that's what I'm hearing at least, confined by the rules and regulations of the grant. We are expected to get CARES funding, which is a blessing. And correct me, what is the timeline of the additional funds expected from this project? Because what I would hope is that while we have the opportunity to take the risk, expecting revenue, why wouldn't we jump at the opportunity to fix our transportation system? I think that then fixing our transportation system, if we look at it from the 30,000 feet above or down the long road, as I like to say, we can really look at, okay, here is what we would like to see with our dollars over the next 10 years, map it out, really, a legitimate plan, and commit to putting those funds to replace for this grant funding so that we can be in a good place, including the fixed and shorter routes, drop-offs to more places in our city, expanding opportunities to connect with working zones, bike areas, just all of that. I mean, I think that should be the thing, if we are, taking the step to fix our transportation system or go into this new step to creating a more efficient city for our residents. I think why pass up the opportunity, for a better and more efficient city services. That's, one of our biggest complaints all the time.
Yeah. Well, if I'm understanding you correctly, the timeline, we're reimbursed quarterly from these funds. The CARES funds cannot be used for capital. That's all for operating. So the capital funds to buy buses is either this portion that we get from MTA, and we pursue other types of grant opportunities that are out there. That would be a way to go.
Well, but if this is covering your operational, and again, this would have to be discussed with the city manager and the director of finance. But if this is covering the operational and CARES can be used to cover operational, couldn't that be used to float the transportation department until we can get into a place to replace that revenue with the expected revenue?
I think that's a better question for the finance director.
Jody?
Yeah, I want to clarify that the funding that's coming to transportation from the CARES Act is going to be needed to help us get through. We used some of it in 20. We're going to have to use a big chunk in 21, and we're going to need to use some more in 22 as well. And there's not going to be a lot left over for anything additional.
Thank you. Alderman Arnett has his hand up.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My heart really wants to go with Alderman Gay on this, but my mind is telling me two things. One, if we don't accept this grant, it is going to really cripple transit operations. Most of this grant goes to not purchasing buses, but running the system. The second thing is, I don't want to be the one that tells the state this year, hey, no thanks, we're going to turn our nose up at your grant, and then want to come back next year and expect them to give us a grant. That may be a specter that never eventuates, but I think it is always a risk when you don't accept a grant that you get off the list. And I think our transportation system needs all of the help it can get. We can't support it on the fare box alone, not even close. And we are getting a lot of help from the CARES money and probably get some more from the American Relief Plan, but still, we need it. And you've got to remember also, we're going to have the Hillman Garage down, and we hope we can supplement that money and with the new contract, but we don't have an assurance there. So I just feel like we're in pretty tenuous circumstances to bravely assert what is in our hearts, truly in our hearts, to be is environmentally sound. And I hear what you're saying also, Alderman Gay. Every year we say, well, next year we'll change the way we do things. And I think you're right. I think our constituents, when we're all running for election, have a right to call us on that. How come you didn't take the brave stand? We want the environment protected. So, but I just think that there are too many compelling reasons, if we want to keep a viable transit system going in the short run, that we can't reject this grant.
Mr. City Manager.
Thank you, Mayor. So I wanted to address Alderman Gay's point about the EV policy that the city is in the process of developing. Deputy City Manager Guild is working on that. It's going to mirror the county program because they have an EV plan as well. We're going to focus on the smaller vehicles initially because those are the ones that the technology is most developed for. The new Public Works Maintenance Facility is going to have a robust EV infrastructure as part of it, so we can start purchasing vehicles for Public Works that will be EVs. Hillman Garage will also have a lot of EV charging capability. So all of the vehicles, the city vehicles that park downtown will be able to transition over to EVs. It makes a lot more sense right now based on the technology to go with small vehicles first. That's what the county's doing. That's what we're going to do. We're going to focus on those two locations. We'll need to retrofit the police department, the police station with EV infrastructure because those are small vehicles that can be electric as well. The larger vehicles like buses and dump trucks and excavators and all of that stuff will come later because the technology is just not there right now. When that starts becoming available, then we'll start spreading the infrastructure to those locations as well. So again, Deputy City Manager Guild is working on that. She's working with Public Works. I think she's working with Director Gordon on that to put that plan together. It's probably going to be about a 20-year plan is what we anticipate. But at that point, we should be substantially converted over to EVs. So we haven't ignored it. We're very interested in this and we're very supportive in putting that plan together.
Thank you, Mr. City Manager. Alderman Gay.
Yeah, this is my last point. The same thing was said. And then last year, we purchased half of the new police vehicles, non-electric. I mean, every single last one that's riding around in town today. It's crazy. We also said that we roll out the electric plugins. Now, granted, COVID happened. I'll give you that. I'm not sure what the status of that project is. And then lastly, it's misleading to the public for us to say, or for it to be floated in conversation, that the technology is not yet there or available yet, because it is. We are just not getting it. That's the thing. You know, there are these electric, plows, everything. We just have to look into it and be committed to it. So it is available. We, the city of Annapolis, have just not committed to looking to it or getting it.
Keep in mind that we don't have the infrastructure for it. We do not have the infrastructure. So you can go and buy those vehicles all day, but if you don't have the infrastructure, you can't support them.
Thank you, Alderman Tierney.
Yeah, I just wanted to say on a good note, the new DPW facility, because it's new, we can put in infrastructure, and we are putting in some EV charging stations at that new project. That's good news.
Thank you. Okay, so we have a motion and a second to adopt R-9-21 on first reader. With a show of hands, everyone in favour, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed, say no. Thank you. Mr. City Attorney, please present the next on the agenda.
Yes, sir. The next item is a second reader. First item is O2920, small cell systems, for the purpose of establishing requirements for small cell systems, adding small cell systems as a use subject to standards in all zoning districts, creating certain definitions, and generally relating to small cell systems.
Is there a motion to adopt O-29-20 on second reader?
So moved.
We get a second?
Second.
Thank you. We have some proposed amendments, amendments 1 and 2 from the Transportation Committee, and Amendment 3. Can we do these separately or together?
Mr. Mayor, we can do all of these together. They were recommended favorably in Economic Matters along with Transportation.
Okay. Can you move the amendments, please? 1 to 3.
So moved. I moved amendments 1 through 3.
Second.
Can I get a second?
Second.
So there is a motion to adopt O-29-20 on second reader. Any discussion before we vote? Alderman Arnett.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. I got a call late in the afternoon from a nonprofit group worrying that something in here is going to throw an extra roadblock in terms of applications to get these small cell systems. It really is out of left field, but I wanted to make sure to put that in. I promised that I would raise this issue. I don't know enough about the details of the ordinance because it wasn't on our committees, but is there something in here that is going to make it more onerous to for anyone to apply for a small cell system or use it?
The Alderman Savage and Alderman Schnellmeyer. Who would like to go first? Yeah.
Well, I had to have some information on this. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I spoke with the same person, Alderman Arnett, and there was just some confusion. They were confusing the 5G systems with Wi-Fi, which a nonprofit might want to set up on their property. So we got it all cleared up, and I explained that this is only for Verizon and those larger companies who want to do this for cellular purposes, and that private entities can't really put these up yet.
Okay, good. Thank you. That's a relief.
And to kind of also assuage your fears on that front, Alderman Arnett, there was a specific amendment 3 put forward by Alderwoman Tierney and myself that actually separates out Wi-Fi equipment from 5G cellular equipment. So the regulations in this do not apply to the what they are interested in.
Great, you're on top of it.
Thank you. So we have a motion and a second. All those in favor with a show of hands say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed say no. Q, is there a motion to vote on whether the amendments to O-29-20 are substantive? Okay. Is there a motion to adopt O-29-20 as amended on second reader?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to be added as a sponsor.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, I would also, please.
Thank you. All those in favor with a show of hands say aye.
Mr. Mayor, 1 second. I'm sorry. I thought Alderwoman Tierney had her hand up for adding something.
Yeah, I just wanted to say before we vote, I have to give a shout out to Director Nash on this because it went through a very linear process. Every committee did their due diligence, and under separate cover are the guidelines, and just an amazing effort. So just kudos to her and all the committees that for doing their thorough review, Planning Commission included. System worked.
Give a little love to Director Nash. Thank you all. Okay, where are we? So is there a motion to adopt, am I still on second reader?
Yes. Yes. Motion to it. Yes.
Okay, all those in favor with show of hands say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed, say no. Thank you. Is there a motion to adopt O-29-20 on third reader?
So moved.
Second. For a second, Madam City Clerk, please call the roll.
Yes, sir. Mayor Buckley,
Aye.
Alderman Gay,
Yes.
Alderman Savage,
Aye.
Alderman Arnett,
Aye.
Alderwoman Tierney,
Aye.
Alderman Payon,
Aye.
Alderwoman Pendell Charles,
Aye.
Alderwoman Finlayson,
Aye.
Alderman Schnellmeyer.
Aye.
That ordinance passes.
Thank you. Mr. City Attorney, please present the next item on the agenda.
Yes, the next item is R4120, related resolution, small cell systems fees for the purpose of adding fees to the fiscal year 2021 fee schedule concerning small cell systems.
Thank you. Is there a motion to adopt R-41-20 on second reader?
So moved.
Second.
Second. Thank you. Any discussion? I think this one is a roll call. Madam City Clerk?
Yes, sir. Mayor Buckley,
Aye.
Alderman Gay,
Aye.
Alderman Savage,
Aye.
Alderman Arnett,
Aye.
Alderwoman Tierney,
Aye. It's revenue.
Alderman Payon,
Aye.
Alderwoman Pendell Charles,
Aye.
Alderwoman Finlayson,
Aye.
and Alderman Schnellmeyer.
Aye.
And that resolution carries.
Thank you. Mr. City Attorney, please present the next item on the agenda.
Yes, sir. R4220, small cell systems fines for the purpose of adding fines to the fiscal year 2021 fine schedule concerning small cell systems.
Could I get a motion for R-42-20?
So moved.
And
Second.
thank you. Thank you all. Another roll call.
Yes, sir. Mayor Buckley,
Yes.
Alderman Gay,
Yes.
Alderman Savage,
Aye.
Alderman Arnett,
Aye.
Alderwoman Tierney,
Aye.
Alderman Payon, Alderwoman Pendell Charles,
Aye.
Alderwoman Finlayson,
Aye.
Alderman Schnellmeyer.
Aye.
And that resolution carries.
Thank you. Mr. City Attorney, please.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
Mr. Mayor?
Pendell.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I slipped by. Madam Clerk, I meant to ask, could I be a co-sponsor on R-9-21? I know we passed it, and I thank you so much.
Thank you. Mr. City Attorney, please present the next item on the agenda.
Mr. Mayor, this is the R421. We have an issue on this one. Can we skip to R521 unless you need me to explain? We have to pull this one because it needs to be in the form of an ordinance.
Okay.
What? No, Regina's raising her hand. Go ahead,
Regina.
It has to be withdrawn. It's on second reader.
Okay, can I get a motion to withdraw R-4-21?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Madam City Clerk, please call the roll.
Yes, sir. Mayor Buckley,
Aye.
Alderman Gay,
Yes.
Alderman Savage,
Aye.
Alderman Arnett,
I'm going to do the Brooks. Aye.
I get excited about my small cell systems.
Alderwoman Tierney,
Aye.
Alderman Payon,
Aye.
Alderwoman Pendell Charles,
He sounds like the Gordon Fisherman.
Alderwoman Finlayson,
Aye.
Alderman Shanamine.
I'm going to be self-conscious about it, but aye.
Thank you. Mr. City Attorney, please present the next item on the agenda.
Yes, sir. The next item is R521, itinerant merchant sales in the historic district for the purpose of authorizing hawker, peddler, and itinerant merchant sales in the historic district in conjunction with certain special events during calendar year 2021.
Is there a motion to adopt R-5-21 on second reader?
So moved.
And a second, please.
Second.
We have an amendment, attorney amendment. Would you like to move that, Alderman Tierney?
Oh yeah, it's pretty exciting. This is an optimistic resolution. It is sort of an administrative resolution, so it gives permission for the respective merchants to sell at certain events. And we did get, in the last minute, we did get an additional event from the Maryland Reentry Resource Center.
Okay, are you moving it? Is that what you need, Regina?
Oh, sorry, am I gabbing too soon?
Yep.
Yeah, I'd like to move amendment 1.
Thank you. Can I get a second, please?
Second.
Okay, thank you, Alderman Tierney.
Thank you. So anyway, we just added the Maryland Reentry Resource Center event because she will have some merchants at that event, food and non-alcoholic beverages and merchandise. So all exciting.
Thank you. Alderwoman Pendell Charles and then Alderman Arnett. I apologize.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Madam Clerk, could you add me as a co-sponsor for that piece of legislation? I'm glad to hear about the Maryland Reentry Program. Thank you, Alderwoman Tierney.
Thank you, Alderman Arnett, then Alderman Gay.
So point of information, are we adding a new event or a new vendor?
I believe it's a vendor.
It's listing an event that will have an approved vendor. She's going to have food and non-alcoholic beverages and merchandise, but that's a good question. It does imply then that we acknowledge that event.
Right. So the whole basis for the special events legislation way back when was from the vendors downtown saying that they were being overwhelmed by events, and particularly events in summer months. They actually welcomed events in the cold months because it would attract people. So, I guess I'm a little uncomfortable just at the last second adding another event without opportunity for input from the vendors and all the other people who work so long and hard on the special events legislation.
Right, that's a valid question. She's going through the permit process now with our special events coordinator, Felicia, and then we will have the opportunity as a council to approve the events themselves. This resolution just addresses the merchants and the vendors to get ahead of the game, I guess, so they can get prepared. But the list of events themselves will be on a separate resolution where this one will be added.
I guess I wonder if we don't need a little more time to think about this. It's in May. How does that juxtapose with other events that are going on around that same time?
Yeah, that's why it has to, the application still is in review. Felicia will make sure that another event isn't happening at the same time and all that, so.
Well, shouldn't we wait to amend then until that work is done?
I'm not sure what we gain from doing that.
Well, we might find that it interferes with something else.
And we can address it in that resolution. This is just for the merchants.
The hands up that I saw were Alderman Gay, then Alderman Pone, and then Alderman Savage.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just 1 second. I'm sorry. I just pulled off of it on the agenda and I just had a R521, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, I did have concern now, and I got to pull up the report. I'm sorry. Oh, two things. One, it says 5/18/21 when it should say 3/18/21 on the in Granicus. Just a simple fix. But again, you know, here's my concern with passing stuff like this, because then we're giving the okay for these events when what we're seeing in Miami is ridiculous. Not to say that we are Miami, but when you open for crowds and for events, you open. And so, again, then we have to put the dollars behind making sure that we have the efficient staff and police and, you know, just X number of individuals on site to help, you know, with the crowding and the mask and all of this stuff. Understanding that we do want to open, but I just think we should do so safely. I mean, we're seeing right on camera before our eyes what's happening when you open up and you give people the expectation that they could act as they traditionally would with alcohol and parties and all of this other stuff. So it's just something that we should have in the back of our minds.
You, Alderman Peon.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We're putting the cart before the horse. I think that you know, we're giving somebody permission to have to sell things at an event that we haven't even approved yet. It's not complicated. It's not difficult. We have no business approving this. It's a totally different piece of legislation to get that event named either a city event or really to do almost anything downtown. And it's foolish. We can always very quickly approve an amendment for this particular statute if we need to do that. But I think this is very bad timing and it's a very bad precedent. Thank you.
Fred, that's twice.
You respond, Alderman Tierney.
Yeah, I just want to say that my predecessor, Alderman Budge, and I believe others worked on this legislation, and this is the way the code is set up. For whatever reason, I'm just following the rules that the merchants are supposed to be approved in a separate resolution by a certain date. So I guess if we want to do something different, we'll have to revisit that legislation. I don't know if you can speak to it if you were involved in the legislation, Alderman Arnett, with Alderman Budge, why the logic was this way, or?
I'd be happy to. I think Alderman Payon got it right. First, we approved the events, and then after there was an approved event, then you would come in for approval of the vendors for an approved event. So it seems to me that step one would be to get this evaluated as a new event. And it seems like, given the name of it, it might have some merit, but we need to do all of the work to make sure it isn't overlapping with other events that are down there, and it isn't overburdening the space down there, you know, and being insensitive to the vendors and their concerns about being overwhelmed in the warm months when they really want more room for parking and space for people to come and use them. So I guess my sense would be the way it was set up, we went through and evaluated all of the different events. We came up with legislation that approved a set of events. Subsequent to that, you would come back and approve vendors. And I do think if this is approved as an event, and that should come to us as a legislative change, then we can always come back and approve vendors for that event. But I do think that one should precede the other. Get the event approved and then approve vendors if that's what they want.
Yeah, I think I can have Felicia, we do it this way every year, but we can wait for her negotiation on this last event and get that resolution in, and I guess look at them all at the same time. She's not here to speak to it, but I'm sure that shouldn't be a problem.
Alderman Savage was next.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I'm not sure how I would vote on supporting any events in May, but I'd be okay supporting this amendment, but it might make sense to just wait on this legislation. The only potential conflict, or not conflict, but time sensitivity would be, so the date for the Maryland Reentry Resource Center, which sounds like a really useful, I'm sure we would all support that event in general, maybe not in May, but in any case, that's May 8th. The next event after that is the Maryland Federation of Art, which is June 6th. So I guess we would just need to get something.
What about graduation?
A graduation is down? I don't know. I don't see that, but.
From the Naval Academy, there are 1 million people in town.
I think the next hand I saw was either Alderman Chanelmar or Alderman Gay. No, Alderman Gay. Thank you.
Yeah, sorry, excuse me. And again, look, Maryland Reentry Resource Center, that's not something that, I would go against. Like, I want people to have access to whatever they're promoting it, or I guess they're trying to fund this organization. I'm not even sure what's going on, because if it's a reentry program, would you have it on the city dock, or would you have it where people would be more likely to need reentry? So again, I'm just still a little bit confused, but and I just would like clarification. Do you need it passed tonight, Ellie?
No, this is just approving the vendors. But I can understand your concern. I could ask if you could approve the legislation without the amendment, which adds the Maryland reentry, if you're concerned about that being an additional.
Well, no, I'm prepared to vote for it with the amendment, because it is something that I think is critical to our community, reentry resources.
Yeah.
I don't know if they are.
I don't want it to hurt the rest. I don't want it to hurt the rest of the legislation. I mean, I can always just pull the amendment until we get the total list of events.
Okay, well, yeah.
It sounds like that's what Alderman Arnett would want. All these events have happened every year, except that one is a new one. Right. And because we had postponed, we had canceled some April, as you know, March and April events, we thought we could add this one in. And I think we will, but you don't see that in the list yet.
So Regina, we need to vote this down.
The amendment, Bill.
Yeah, the amendment. So all those in favor of the tyranny amendment to R-4, sorry, R-5-21, sorry, say aye.
I'll say aye.
All those opposed say no. No.
No.
Okay. We still need to vote it through, and without the amendment, is there a motion of the R-5-21 on second reader?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Roll call, Regina?
Yes, sir. I'm turning on my microphones. Mayor Buckley.
Yes.
Alderman Gay.
Yes.
Alderman Savage.
Aye.
Alderman Arnett.
Aye.
Alderman Tierney.
Aye for the salsa dances.
Okay. Alderman Payon.
Aye.
Alderman Pendell Charles.
Aye.
Alderman Finlayson.
Aye.
Alderman Chanelmeyer.
Aye. Making fun of my New Englandness, man. Gonna start dropping my ass real soon.
Maryland's winning by 6 points.
Mr. City Attorney, please present the next item on the agenda.
Yes, sir. R-621, nonprofit vendors during fall 2021 boat shows, for the purpose of authorizing sales by certain vendors in the city dock area of the historic district during fall 2021 U.S. sailboat and powerboat shows.
So moved.
Is there a motion to adopt R-6-21 on second reader? Is that Alderman Arnett? Thank you.
Second.
Second. Any discussion?
Yes, let's have a boat show.
Yes.
It's actually the same weekend as my wedding because I did not think about my reschedule.
Nice. Alderman Tierney.
I'm just having my fingers crossed.
Oh, sorry.
that wasn't raising my hand. But again, it just authorizes the organizations to sell food and beverages at the anticipated boat show this year.
Okay, Madam City Clerk, please call the roll.
Yes, sir. Mayor Buckley?
Aye.
Alderman Gay?
Right, so she was a Newtown 20 resident.
Alderman Savage?
Aye.
Alderman Arnett?
Aye.
Alderwoman Tierney?
Aye.
Alderman Payon?
Aye.
Alderwoman Pendell Charles?
Aye.
Alderwoman Finlayson?
Aye.
And Alderman Schandelmeyer.
Yes.
Thank you.
Make fun of that.
Thank you. Mr. City Attorney, please present the next item on the agenda.
Yes, sir. R721, annual reports for the purpose of receiving the combined annual reports of the Annapolis committees, commissions, boards, and authorities.
Is there a motion to adopt R-7-21 on second reader?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
Thank you. I see no hands. Madam City Clerk, please call the roll.
Yes, sir. Mayor Buckley?
Yes.
Alderman Gay?
I think I told her I was sitting there before.
I got you. Alderman Savage?
Aye.
Alderman Arnett?
Yes.
Alderwoman Tierney?
Aye.
Alderman Payon?
Aye.
Alderwoman Pendell Charles?
Aye.
Alderwoman Finlayson?
Aye.
Alderman Schandelmeyer.
Aye.
Thank you. That resolution passes.
Thank you. Mr. City Attorney, please present the next item on the agenda.
Yes, sir. R921, second reader, filing of the grant application, Maryland Transit Administration that you talked about before, first reader.
So this has to be unanimous consent. So is there a motion to suspend the rules to allow passage of a resolution at the meeting of its introduction?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Discussion.
Alderwoman Pendell Charles.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Madam Clerk, can you add me as a co-sponsor, please?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, so do I need to call the roll on this, Regina, or just show of hands?
Either one. If you get a no.
Let's call the roll.
One second, Mr. Mayor.
Alderman Gay.
Could you just, point of order, I'm sorry, I'm trying to handle a situation with a constituent right now in the hacker, but are we taking our vote on R921?
On suspending the rules, so it has to be unanimous.
Okay.
So we're taking a motion on suspending the rules. So we will do that with a roll call.
Yes, sir. Mayor Buckley?
Yes.
Alderman Gay?
No.
It's done. Okay.
So we can stop there. Thank you.
It's off.
Are we able to get this brought up at our next meeting, and will that give us sufficient timing for the application?
Mr. City Manager.
Could we call Director Gordon back in to talk about the urgency and what the time frame is that we need to submit this?
Yes or no?
He left the call.
Jody, do you have any information?
There he is. He's back.
Didn't leave the call.
I was just going to say he's on there. I could see his name.
I can certainly ask, but it's unusual at this stage. I can certainly call MTA and ask.
Okay.
Thank you, Alderman Savage. We are getting to the end here, so we got time.
I just want to ask Alderman Gay I don't even know if he's listening, but Alderman Gay, he's talking on his phone. This is ridiculous. So
I heard you. I'm sorry. There was a legitimate emergency with a resident that I had to respond to.
Okay.
There's a legitimate $3 million on the line here. Alderman Savage, thank you.
Yeah, I mean, Alderman Gay, I get your frustration with this grant request, but you realize if you vote no on suspending the rules, we have to wait until, what, 3 weeks now to get this? I don't know if this is going to jeopardize that $3 million. I get your opposition, but just vote no on third reader. Please just allow us to get this vote forward. You're the only one who has concerns enough to vote no on that. I don't think it's fair to be jeopardizing this $3 million in light of your concerns.
Thank you, Alderman Gay. You had your hand up then, Alderman Tierney.
Yeah, I think it is fair because I, too, like you, campaigned to get elected. And when I said I was going to do something, I was sticking to it. So it is fair. That's the process. That's how voting works. That's government. And so I disagreed with it. I was a no vote. It will be postponed. The director, I believe, said he would communicate with the MTA to figure out the next steps. And so I believe under the direction of our city manager, they will figure out the next steps.
Well, the problem is you're bypassing essentially the democratic process. You're telling everybody here that you're going to, despite the fact that you're the only person voting no on this, that you're going to potentially sabotage this grant request when everybody else here doesn't have a problem with it. Just vote no. Maybe take your stance on the final vote. This is not the vote to be taking your stance on. This is the vote to suspend the rules so that when we vote as a majority to go forward with this, can have that enacted. This is, for you to do this is going to be, it's just in complete disrespect to the entire body if you're going to go forward with this. It's completely selfish.
I think the vote has been cast. So Alderman Tierney, then Alderman Payon.
I just wanted to echo my colleague, Alderman Savage, that again, this is a resolution for the filing of an application. It's not accepting the money. It's not, allocating the money. This is to file for the money, which you heard Director Gordon say sustains 40% of our transportation budget. That's what you're sabotaging. I understand your principle. I understand about the electric vehicles and all, but we're talking about sustaining our entire transit department. So I would just ask you to reconsider.
Alderman Gay.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I apologize. The word sabotage. What is a sabotage?
Exactly.
Sabotage. I know what it is. I was not asking for a response. I know what the word sabotage means, but to say that I was sabotaging this bill is ignorant to use that word. I told you at the lunch what I was planning to do. I told you at the beginning of this meeting that I was planning on voting against the bill, and I told you when we just heard it on second reader. I mean,
dude, this is 40% of our.
I told you right up front.
Dude, this is 40% of our transit budget. We can't run any transportation without this.
Point of order. I have Alderman Payon next, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
And Alderman Finlayson, thank you.
Look, I don't know who's sabotaging what. I know that the vote here isn't even with regard to the passage of the $3.8 million grant. I mean, I campaigned too. Most of us did. And I don't know of anybody that campaigned on costing the city $3.8 million. And that's exactly what you're doing right now. You don't have to reconsider your vote. You have every right to vote the way you did, but you're doing it for the wrong reason. And the way I think I and any reasonable person would see it is that, you lost, so the taxpayers are going to have to pay. Now, what I heard the Director Gordon say was that he will ask if they will be able to still submit an application for this. There's no guarantee they'll say yes. It's going to be late. I don't know where you got that, we'll take it from there, or that there's any implication at all that there's going to be money, that will take the place of the 3.8 million or 3 million or 2.5 million, whatever it is we'll get. I guarantee we'll get a whole lot less if we have to file late, and our consideration, I seriously question whether it'll be the same as it would have been if we file on time like everybody else. Thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Finlayson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This vote is a vote to suspend the rules. It is not a vote on the merits of the legislation. It is not on whether we submit this application as stated in R921. It is simply a vote to suspend the rules so that we can then take the vote on the legislation. So, Alderman Gay, I implore you to give us an opportunity to continue that discussion, that debate, and then you can have an opportunity to vote against it. But right now, we just want to suspend the rules. So please support the effort. Let us suspend the rules, and then we can debate the merits of the legislation. Please understand, that's what we're doing. Thank you.
Alderman Gay.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. I just really quick. I will open up. Well, I can't because I was in the minority. You can't take a vote. I mean, you can't, as someone in the minority, you can't make the motion to reconsider. But just really quickly, my colleagues, it frustrates me. Don't disrespect me. You know, not to the point that Alderwoman Finlayson made, because the only reason I'm making the vote to reconsider is because of the way she just acts and, laid it out. You're sabotaging and all of this stuff. It's not a sabotage. It was something I disagreed with. So I didn't vote for it. I will take the vote to reconsider. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, I think I can make the motion to reconsider because I was on the prevailing side. Isn't that correct, Mr. Lyles? No?
No.
Okay, who has to make that motion?
Well, point of information, we didn't actually finish the vote.
Right.
Yeah, somebody can say,
okay.
hey,
we didn't finish the vote. So basically what happened is the mayor saw that we had won and we stopped the count. So we do have a motion and a second, and we just have to go through with the vote. So
can Alderman Gay withdraw his no or not at this point?
Well, technically the vote was not concluded. So there's nothing happening with the vote until you call the vote and then the number of the vote. So show of hands or whatever. When you saw his nay, you stopped. So I would say
start again?
Yeah, you can start. You've got a motion and a second on the floor. The vote has not been concluded. So you can now call the vote again, call for the vote and end it.
Regina?
I'm sorry. Mayor Buckley.
Before I vote, I want to thank Alderman Gay, and we appreciate all the things that he does and his passion. So I'm going to say yes.
Okay. Alderman Gay.
I reluctantly vote yes with the expectation that the city manager will lead the staff to do as we have discussed on October the 17th of 2019.
Alderman Savage.
Aye.
Alderman Arnett.
Aye.
Alderwoman Tierney.
Aye.
Alderman Payon.
Aye.
Alderwoman Pendell Charles.
Aye.
Alderwoman Finlayson.
Aye.
And Alderman Schneidermeyer.
Aye.
The motion to suspend the rules.
Suspend the rules, yes.
Thank you. Thank you. Is there a motion to adopt R-9-21 on second reader?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Madam City Clerk, please call the roll.
Yes, sir. Mayor Buckley.
Aye.
Alderman Gay.
No.
Alderman Savage.
Aye.
Alderman Arnett.
Abstain.
Okay. Alderwoman Tierney.
Aye. I want the money.
Alderman Payon.
Aye.
Alderwoman Pendell Charles.
Aye.
Alderwoman Finlayson.
Aye.
And Alderman Schneidermeyer.
Aye.
That motion carries.
Thank you all. I hope at least we can get a hybrid. That would be a dream there, Director Gordon. So thank you for your efforts. Mr. City Attorney, please present the next item on the agenda.
That concludes the agenda, Mr. Mayor.
And do we have anything else for good order? Alderman Tierney?
Yeah, thank you. I guess it's somber, but in the wake of the shootings in Atlanta, I just thought we could take a quick moment of silence for victims of gun violence in their communities, including our own Capitol Gazette family. If we could just take a minute of.
I hate to add an additional somber note to that. There was a shooting in Boulder while we were in this meeting.
Just now.
Numerous fatalities.
It was earlier.
So far.
Oh boy, that's kind of creepy.
Numerous fatalities.
So, yes.
Moment of silence. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everybody.
I move that we adjourn, Mr. Mayor.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Thank you all. Meeting adjourned.